so much to talk about this week on Truth Talk. This world, and especially America, has reached a new position, not a good one. We thought chaos and being out of control was something COVID happened. Well, now we're doing it to ourselves from within our own country. So, Bill, Brandy, it's great to have you guys back. We're going to get right into talking about the infiltration, the attack on the Capitol, the attack on freedom of speech, the awareness in the bigger scale of the racial issues that was brought back up because of the reaction. So we got a lot to talk about. The impeachment with Trump, you name it, we're going to talk about it. And the first thing before I want to say anything about all that is you are welcome to chat with us. If you're listening online, chat. We'll put your comments up there if they are appropriate. And we would love to have you help guide our conversation. So, as Christians, I've had a couple of people, Bill and Brandy, over the last week or so, since we did the special report, Brandy, on Wednesday, say, well, how are we getting involved with politics? Why would I put myself out there? Why are you two putting yourself out there talking about politics? And, we can be seen as one-sided, Republican or Democratic. And do we want people to see us that way? For me, I'm just going to say my truth. I'm going to say what I believe, what I based on research, what I know, whether it's from a mainstream media source or it's from an unknown media source. If it's got factual evidence, I'm going to present that. If it's about Democrats or Republican, I'm going to represent that because I'm not about doing one side. Do I have an opinion? Yes, I do. It may come clear as I talk about my opinion, but it's going to be based or supported and surrounded with both sides of the story. I hope that's our prayer on this show, is that we can present all sides, see how all people are experiencing it and concerned about it, and then how can we address it with biblical principles. So Brandy and Bill, before we start, I know you weren't expecting this question, but what makes you put yourself out there? What is your reason for doing something like this?
I knew Bill would let me go. I think we kind of touched on this when COVID first hit, when God gave you the idea to do the show. And I just have always felt like I've been a messenger for people. I speak where people won't, where people kind of shy away from speaking whatever their truth is. I've been sent to be the voice for people who can't speak or won't speak.
Well, with my situation, like I usually pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the world, not just in the United States, but politically and historically. It's a passion. It's not like I feel like I'm making any differences or anything, but it's a passion to pay attention to what's going on. And so often my mind's working on things historical, political, and of course my military and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so what's going on in the big pictures affects my mind. However, I also don't come to, at least in my older ages, I don't come to the table thinking I know what I'm talking about. But I also don't come to the table thinking too many people do. So I want to keep searching as opposed to coming to something from a conclusion viewpoint. And the reason I say that is because I'm anybody listening knows that I'm somewhat of a conservative guy, okay? But I don't agree with people who just because they have conservative written before them. And I have a relative who is somewhat liberal. I say that because he's not somewhat. But it doesn't matter to him what his side does. It's right. He may have last week said, I don't agree with this behavior. And then his side does it. And then he goes, that's right. This is why. And I'm like, everything goes through the prism of his political liberal views. I don't do that. And I don't want to do that. And I hope if I ever am doing it, I hope people call me out on it, because it isn't about it. because humans are fallible. Humans, not liberal humans and conservative humans, not black humans or white humans or tall humans or short humans. Humans mess everything up in the world. We just do. I do it too. So do you. And that's what I try and bring to the discussion is like, look, I don't like what's going on right now at all. Okay. Not going to take sides and say, oh, this is my side, so now I'm going to defend that. No, not going to do it. And that's what I see almost everybody doing, both on the news or any place else. Now my has messed up, so I get to jump on them, or something to that effect. And I don't like that, and I never have. So that's what I hope to bring to it, a little bit of reason and maybe balance.
There you go. Now, everyone, if you were concerned about why, as Christians, we come on and talk about the news, talk about politics, and present all sides, this is why. Because I think here we have three people. We don't all agree politically. We don't all agree with the way we see things. We all have different experiences, different histories. But the one thing we have in common is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the foundation of the principles of the Bible, his word, the belief that God is bigger than every single thing we're experiencing. And that is what ties us together. And for those listening, if you can get past the smaller points of life and realize as Christians, we need to be bonded by the word. All the rest doesn't really matter. Okay, so with that, we're going to talk about this. The media has called it an attack, an infiltration on the Capitol. I think it's a desperation for justice. That is my coin for it, is a desperation for justice from people that feel disenfranchised by the politicians, by those in power. I want to welcome to the show Kay Lanyon. I hope I pronounced that right. She said, amen. I believe that was to the fact that all Christians should be joined together and make that our foundation. Thank you, Kay. As much as we saw the breakup of the citizens of America coming against the powers of the government, we also see the resilience of those in power, not willing to budge, not willing to yield, not willing to even acknowledge that maybe people have a build up that made this explode. Do you think, Bill O'Brandy, that the government is responsible whatsoever? I'm not talking about Trump. We'll talk about President Trump in a little bit, but just the government as a whole, whether it's because of the election process or the restrictions on COVID, the racial tensions that have been going on over the year. Do you think it's really more about the desperation for justice, or was it just about Trump not being elected?
Well, I personally think that, for me, it was a bad idea no matter who did that. And when we were a few months ago, when we were talking about Seattle and we were talking about Portland, I had the same thing. I said, I don't know what you're trying to get done. And you can look back and say, I said those exact things. What you're doing isn't going to get you what you want. It's going to get people against you. And even if somebody was on the fence. And so it is a desperation, there's no doubt, to people. Because I know a lot of people who do not believe that this was on the up and up election. I don't know, because I wasn't involved. Okay, I understand the questions. I read both sides of everything, and I get the questions. I do. I totally go, things that make you go, I'm old.
Right.
And the song, things that make you go, I do it all the time. And them shutting it down at midnight and counting later, and then the guy that was winning all loses in every state he was winning in. I get why you have a problem with this. However, if it was me talking to people, I'd say, I understand you're frustrated, but what do you want out of it? I do that all the time as a cop, by the way. I'm talking to people. They're being violent, they're being destructive, they're being something, and I go, what do you want out of this? And they'll tell me, I go, Well, now, would you tell your friend to go about it this way, or would you tell them how to do it a different way? And usually, as soon as emotions are out of it, they go, yeah, that's probably I probably could do this a better way. I don't blame people for protesting, even in Seattle and Portland. I was like, look, protest all you want. Hold every sign, stand on the street corner, don't take other people's rights, don't threaten other people, don't break things, don't vandalize. Because now you are causing more trouble than what you ever could possibly fix. And if I was in the meeting saying, hey, we're going to go do this, I'd say, we better think about it because I want this outcome. But nobody does that because they let the emotions get in charge. And I don't think it was a big conspiracy. I think emotions took off. And then once something happens, remember we talked about this before, that mentality of the old movie where everybody's going to break the guy out of jail to hang him, you know, because he killed the local banker or something in the movie. And then everybody shows up and that one brave sheriff stands out front with his shotgun and keeps that happening because they're going to have a trial. All that over and over again, that was in the movies, right? But that's because everybody got together and started rolling. And I think that's kind of what happened, you know.
Well, I have to interrupt that because it brings me to a point. And we're going a little bit further than I wanted to, but the one thing that I don't see as it's a spontaneous movement, okay? And I do think it's kind of like last week, it was, for me, it was like a mosh pit at a concert. You have people sitting there enjoying the concert. It takes one person up in front to push another person before the mob just pushes around. And before you know it, you have this big mosh pit and everybody's going crazy. Could it have been that? Yeah. But I want to show you something. And we're going to talk about this. This isn't what you think. I'm just showing this because I look at this noose that was put up. That is not a spontaneous action.
Right.
They had to have that material. They had to have that forethought. They had to be able to have the tools to build that. Now that was going on, according to what I know, and I'll cite the places later, that was being built while the unrest was happening. It was a simultaneous action. So there's no way that was spontaneous. That can't be spontaneous.
No,
So,
but the same mentality as the movie I'm talking about. They're building the gallows to hang the guy. They're going to break out of jail before he gets his trial. It's the same mentality. And that's what I was talking about. It's the mob mentality. And I'm not saying it's spontaneous like only one guy did it. What I mean is that mob mentality starts rolling. And it's very dangerous because no matter what, they don't think anymore. It's all emotion at that point.
yeah, I agree with that. There is no thinking. This is not something that I think there was planning. I think a few people might have planned it. I think there might have been people planted to plan it within the group. I think it's a combination. You can't point this to one thing or one person because it's just too complicated. And for me, you know, we're looking at what happened before and then what happened during, but then the result, like the steps taken after effect, those are three different separate things. And I think what's missing is someone to say, hey, wait a minute, it's all not just as easy as one pie. Trump did it, let's get him out, everything's going to be resolved. It's not that easy.
He's already gone anyway on the 20th. I mean, that's irrelevant because he's not inaugurated. It's going to be Biden. And we talked about that before too. It doesn't matter. Once the electors speak and vote, it's done.
It's done.
That's why I don't know why anybody would do such a stupid, in my opinion, stupid thing, because I'm like, that doesn't change anything. Not like, oh, the electors are now going to change their mind. No.
Well, I honestly think it's a lot of stress that people are under, and they're done. They're done not being heard. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whether you believe that there's a bad election or not, the fact is a lot of people, we're going to go over some numbers of how many millions of people are actually on the side of this is a bad election. They're done not being heard. you know, and they're done with their lives being taken away, the livelihood being taken away. You have massive amounts of people that have died. People are affected in every area of their life. This was just a thing that pushed them to the limit. But I want to get back to this news, and I want to segue it to Brandy. So this news went up immediately. Immediately, there was backlash about the news from the African American community, saying they put up a noose. This is racism. But I want to bring clarity to that. But then segue it to that very factor is that nooses. They also had a stuffed man, and I don't have a picture of that, that said traitor on it, like a stuffed dummy said traitor. The nooses was representative of hanging traitors, which is what used to be the punishment for anyone for treason. They would hang them. So it wasn't a racial noose. It was a noose about the government having treason, being traitors to the American people for what they felt, the elections, how the elections went. So I want to make that clear that I don't believe in any way that noose is a racial noose. However, though, Brandy, I want to bring this to you. Was there a racial component during the riot?
I mean, if I had to pick one, that would have been it for me. However, I think if they could have picked something else, there's all kind of other things that they could have used to as representative of we're sick of this. And I think we'll never understand the depth of hate in someone's heart. However, I just feel like that added fuel to the fire. If this was just about Trump, just about Biden, just about not being heard or equal rights, or the stimulus not being enough, why was that even necessary to bring in? That will be my question.
I'm in agreement with you, Brandon. I don't know. Once again, nobody invited me to this thing, and I'm glad, by the way, that I wasn't there.
I said the same thing, Bill. I was like, why would
I'm
you
really
invite it?
happy about this, that I was nowhere near Washington, D.C. And I am on vacation, but I was in Tennessee at the time, and now I'm in North Carolina. Never got north of the Mason-Dixon line. I'm happy. But at the same time, had I been there, honestly, seriously, on a serious note, in any way, if I'd had a speaking position in any of that, I said, you can't do this. Not because I don't agree that there's something wrong here. I may feel that way too. What do I want to get out of this situation? And I'm going to bring it to law enforcement. And people don't understand this. And I know why I didn't before I was a cop. You arrest somebody for child molestation, there's nobody on that guy's side. There's nobody. You can't get any consensus that people go, oh, well, he's a pretty good guy, but he messed up this once. No, everybody wants to do away with the guy. Everybody. I never met anybody who didn't, okay? And we have to interview him and get a confession. And when we do that, we don't do it like a movie or, what's that one, sexual violent predator one, the Law and Order. And the one guy who's always hitting people and yelling at people and screaming at people to confess. We don't do any of that stuff. What you do is you talk nice to people because you want an ultimate outcome, which is his confession. You downplay it. Now that's terrible. It sounds terrible. It does sound terrible, but that's what real investigators do. You're looking for the outcome, which is you want to nail this thing down in a court of law so he doesn't do that to anybody else again.
Right.
Okay. Well, if I get mad, mean, angry, put up a noose saying I'm going to hang you or any of that stuff, all he's going to do is ask for a lawyer and he's not going to confess to anything. If I talk nicey nice, I know that sounds, weird to say that, but if I talk nice to a guy who just did a heinous thing, there's a possibility he's going to tell me why, which is going to get him in prison. And what's the ultimate goal? Is it to get him convicted of crime? Yes. So I have to go and do things that are uncomfortable for me in order to elicit that response. Same thing here. If I was talking to that group, they say, let's go do this. I'd say, no, don't do that, because you're going to get the opposite of what you want.
But
well, we want this.
I think
you're going to get the opposite.
I don't
and
think not the opposite though, Bill, because they didn't expect the government to do anything on their behalf. That's the point of this is, and I'm going to be devil's advocate here against you and Brandon.
Right.
But the point is that it was a controlled chaos because they didn't feel like the government was going to do. They didn't have the outcome. Let's do this the right way. To these people, they tried over the course of a year to do it the right way. Their president, President Trump, tried to do it the right way legally, and everything was shut down. So this is their explosion of, this is my voice. I'm just going to destroy your peace. I'm going to interrupt the process. I want to be heard once and for all. I don't think they had any more than that as an end game. I think
I'm going to agree with you, and I have to go, so I'm going to cut Brandy. I want to hear Brandy, but I got to go because it is my birthday, and I'm leaving with my family, and we're going to go have a very good time. And you know what? We're not going to try and storm any building at all.
On the screen, happy birthday, Bill. Have a great birthday. We are wishing you blessings. So go have fun with your family, and we will talk to you next week. Be safe getting.
Yes, thank you. And once again, I just want everybody assured, no buildings are going to be stormed by the Kaufman clan.
No, you are
families going to have fun. I actually wish people did that. I'm not kidding. I joke all the time, but I'm not kidding. I wish people would take their life and other people's lives into account and say, why don't we have a good day? I don't want you to be miserable. Because you meet my family today, I hope your life is better. Because I meet your family, I hope my life is better. We're not going to do it. I understand that. I'm a soldier and a cop, but I wish we stinking would do it. So, okay.
Well, Bill, Jill Buckland listening says happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Jill. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Brandy. So we're going to continue in this theme that I have of, and just briefly, because there's so much other stuff that we need to talk about. And you and I did talk about this last week on the special report. But, to me, the racist issues came up during the riot when they did not use any force against these protesters. And I don't understand that. Like, that still really puzzles me. And then you have a picture like this. I'll show our viewers. This is, protesters leaving after they rioted, after they destroyed, after they stole property. This is officers holding the door open for them. Now, not only holding the door open for them, Brandy, I want to read, and this comes from the New York Post article on January 7th. But it says here that the police officers were seen politely holding the door for the protesters to walk out of the building after they caused mayhem. Now, could you imagine rioting a building with government officials stealing property, and then the officer, thank you, have a nice day? Could you imagine that happening as any person of color? Not only that, though, here's some comments as the people were going past the officers holding the door. There wasn't just one, there was actually a couple of officers doing this. One woman shouted, "We made it, woohoo!" Another one said, "We'll be back. Next time it won't be peaceful." That's a threat. A threat. And then another one said, "Yes, we stopped the vote." So here are people who not only ran into it, not only destroyed property, stole property, listen, our government officials, I don't care who they are, they don't deserve to be pictured like this, made them cower down in fear.
Yeah.
These are people that swore to protect our way in America. They are our congressmen, congresswomen, you know, and they are in that condition, and officers are saying, thank you, have a nice day, and they are able to leave. Now, I understand as of today, around 1:30ish, there was a report that I listened to on the news that 2 police officers were being investigated for aiding and abetting the protesters. So I don't know if they are ones that held the door open or not. They didn't elaborate what they were being investigated for. But, you know, there is a lot of uproar, and it's not getting a lot of media attention in the African American community. And Bill said it, you know, he said, I have the same thoughts about the Portland and Seattle riots as I do this one. Isn't that the only correct statement to say? Shouldn't the response been the same?
Exactly the same. I think the African American community is tired, frustrated, disappointed, unheard, um, just a myriad of emotions. It's like everything we always thought would happen. And I'm just going to, that Caucasians would be protected and African Americans will be killed. That's what people have always thought. And we see it live in living color on TV happening right, like in front of you is the craziest thing. You're like, is this really happening? That what the same crime, and this happens in the I tell you I have a criminal justice degree. This happens in courts all the time. Black man commits a crime, white man commits a crime. Black man gets 20 years, white man may walk or get 5 years. Same crime, but the color of your skin does matter. And even to the Caucasian community, I see my friends like, we sorry. We didn't know that this is really happening. And you see it right in your face that our government does protect. They protect Caucasian people. And I'm not sure why.
But it's
Again,
not a secret.
right.
It's not,
But I think it was a surprise though. I
it was
think
a,
it was just like,
you
right,
know,
like,
I think, and if Jill Buckland is still on, I'd love to have her comment because she's a dear friend of mine. And you know,
that's
I
David's
always
wife.
have ministry with me. Hmm?
That's David's wife.
Yes, that's David Buckland's wife, who was on the show as a contributor. So she wants to comment. We'd love to have her comment as well. And David, if he's there with her. But this is the thing. It's not a secret. Everybody knows it. You can't deny it now.
Right.
But and even there's a TV show, and I cannot think of what it was, but I watched it the other night. Um, it's about a judge, a black judge, and it's here in LA. But anyway, they did one of the shows that there was a riot in the streets. Okay, and she intervened, a cop who was questioning rather harshly a young like teenager, and she intervened and she addressed herself and said, I'm a judge. Well, the cop pulled his gun out and handcuffed her and all this stuff, but she kept telling him, I'm a judge, I'm a judge. The cop didn't want to hear it, but then an attorney who knew the judge came and he said, stop, I'm an attorney. And the police officer immediately said, oh, okay, sorry, sir. Now, same comment. And the attorney was saying, and they were best friends, they were good friends. And the attorney said, I don't understand why you're mad at me, because she was really mad at him at the end of the show. And she said, because you don't understand. I said I was a judge. They handcuffed me. You say you're an attorney, and they lead you out and secure you and make sure you're safe. Why do I need a white man to tell a white man who I am? But that's the America we live in.
$1 million question.
And I don't see anybody, nobody's talking about this. And to me, this is as big of a news, more big of a news than Trump saying a couple of sentences at a rally. The response and the unresponse to what happened. Because there's no way you got the FBI saying, can you help us find these people in pictures? If they were black, they would have been hurtled in like cattle into a police department or more. One of the two would have happened. You wouldn't have anybody saying, please help identify these people.
Exactly.
No way. No way. Which
Even the people that were climbing the wall, they wouldn't have made it over the wall. Like
no.
this whole situation, I'm like, where were the people? The people,
Where's
isn't
the
there
rubber bullet shooting that guy off the wall?
right? Nothing. It was just like there was no protection from wherever they started into the Capitol.
Here,
by the time they were storming the Capitol, there was no protection for anybody.
Right.
I mean,
here,
it's like that's it.
Where it went wrong to me. They should have fired guns in the air. They should have did tear gas to these frontline protesters that were pushing their way. They should have stopped it here. And they just didn't do it. They didn't do it. You know, and maybe it's just bias of, you know, maybe the police officers weren't afraid of a bunch of white people because what are they going to do? But if there are a lot of black people, they'd be like, oh no, these guys won't kill us. Yeah. Maybe that's a bias too, you know? So it's just sad. I would like to see more of the government officials say something about that and call that to attention to say why they just didn't act. Why did they allow them to just go in? Like they were allowed to do this. No one's going to tell me that. Now, whether it's because it was a setup for Trump or whether it was because there was insiders helping them, I don't really know, but this was a permitted act of violence.
Has anyone been interviewed yet who was on the front line? I would love to hear what happened.
Yes. And do I have it? I had it for another show and I don't have it here today. But honestly, yes, there was a guy who who was holding the podium.
Oh, okay.
There was another guy who was standing with he looked like he had a I forget, he had the horns and the sheep.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. He was interviewed at his house. He came out of his house and he was interviewed. These people are being interviewed. They're not even running from the law. They're like, here I am. Now, I will say that both of those people were arrested since the protest.
No, I would like to hear from the front line of the security people.
Oh no, nobody's talking.
Yeah, I want to know what was your mindset. Now I did hear did you see the video of the black police officer that sent the people on a chase because he was a detour? So basically, he knew what was about to happen, so he let them chase him through on a detour so that they had time to cower and do everything else that they were going to do behind the scenes. So I'll send you the article. Maybe we can talk about it next week. But basically, so I don't think that everybody in the that was security just was like, oh, it's a mob, I'm just not going to do anything. And I also believe that a lot of people were caught off guard that were just at work to do their job that day. And this has never happened. Is that correct? Except in the 1800s. So not in our lifetime and they probably didn't think something like this was going to happen. So I'm sure it's a lot of questions in the air and things like that. But the people who were on security, I would love to hear what happened that day. You know, and even to the people who, I know somebody got shot. A lady had a machete. Like she had a whole knife. Like, did you see the picture?
Yeah.
This knife was.
She's ex-military.
This long. Why did you have a whole long machete to go into the Capitol to talk about you didn't get your stimulus or whatever?
They wanted to incite fear. They wanted to incite chaos. You know,
and they did.
And they did a good job. But now we see on the other side of it, Brandon, I kind of want to segue because there's so much to talk about. I think one of the most important things to come out of this is how the office of the presidency is being changed. And the next thing is our freedom of speech. I want to make sure we get to those two things. Now, I say the office of presidency being changed because never have we had any president completely thrown off of speaking to the public people. I know you
This
can
is
get
such a great ending to this reality TV show that we had to watch, though. Isn't, I mean, it just fell right in line. I was like, oh, okay. All of these years that y'all could have shut him down, to all the other crazy stuff that he said, but this was just the icing on the cake.
But was it? See, again, I don't believe that you should shut the president of the United States up. Just I'm talking about the office of the presidency. I don't believe. I think there's ways to go about it. You have the impeachment process. You have other things to do. But I want to show this because do you agree that they're saying that he incited the violence because of here's what he said. One of the things he said during that time, he said, "We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." And then he completely said, "We're going to walk to the Capitol," right? So that's the incitement. Is that what, in short form, right? So he told, "We're going to fight like hell." Listen, I believe that we have to fight for what we stand for. Now, that word fight doesn't mean I'm going to go out there and literally beat your butt.
Right.
But I'm going to fight with whatever avenue I have, legislatively, politically, for me as a Christian, spiritually. I'm going to fight. I'm going to do warfare. All right. So for President Trump to say that at a rally, the rally was about the electoral vote and that they have to, protest it, that they were protesting the electoral vote. So for him to say we're going to fight and continue to fight doesn't mean he incited that. Here, before you answer, this is what Joe Biden said in an interview. He was asked, let me read it to you because I want to make sure, I want to see where this goes because again, I don't understand the double standard. In an interview on December 24th, 2020, not too long ago, Joe Biden was asked, let me get this point, how he would respond to charges that he is overly optimistic about opportunities for bipartisan cooperation. And he said, now this is, what do you think about the bipartisan cooperation? And he said, I respectfully, I think I spelled that wrong, suggest that I beat the hell out of everyone else.
What?
Not only that, no, let me finish. He also then continued to say that he was ready to fight. He doesn't view such legislative blood matches as productive, though. So here we have Biden talking about the opposition. I will beat the hell out of everyone else. I'm ready to fight. And these are blood matches. Now, how can you say this is not insightful, but what President Trump said was insightful? Now, I'm not talking about the reaction to these. Don't put the reaction in there. Right. Because we're talking about the words. That's what he's accused of. His words were insightful. Okay, now I need you to answer this because I know you're an anti-Trumper, but I don't understand this double standard.
So they're saying that what Trump said, it was insightful, but what Biden said was not?
No one's even bringing up what Biden said. I had to research this for myself. I just wanted to know, has Biden ever used the word fight? Well, let me tell you, there is a lot out there where Biden has used the word fight, talking about Trump people or Trump's values or Trump's agenda. How is no one, I don't understand how that word 100% means that it is insightful. I don't understand that. Help me understand that, Brandy.
I think we live in a different generation. I mean, I'm a writer for those watching. I'm an author, writer, publisher. And so words have power in my world. Um, However, just because they have the interpretation is up to the person who reads it, not always who wrote it. And so, but this generation is so sensitive to certain words that word, just even though we know, if I say, you know what, I'm going to fight this disease, I'm going to fight this crime, I'm going to fight, but if I say I'm going to fight a person, that of course be totally different. But if I say,
did President Trump say he's fighting he said we need to
he
fight
didn't.
because if we don't fight, we're not gonna have a country. He's not saying a
Right.
person.
So he never said a person. So if I would have read that, taking off President Trump's name, we fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. And we know that he's trying to fight his way back into the presidency because if he feels like he was wrong, he feels like he was wrong. I can't tell that man he's not supposed to feel like he was wrong. And so if I say, like, I'm going to fight for my marriage because I feel like I want to keep my husband, I'm not fighting my husband, I'm fighting the system or the feelings, but I'm not fighting the person. And so for that one statement, I will say that I would not have agreed that he was saying that was the thing that took them into the Capitol.
Again, Biden said he's gonna beat the hell out of everybody.
So he beat Trump in the election. Because beating means winning, right?
Exactly.
So
Same concept.
I
Oh
get
no,
it.
we got a comment. We got a comment from Joe. We're gonna break up this contention between us. Here's Joe. Joe says, I agree that racism and equality is a massive problem. Having said that, as a Caucasian, I'm very tired of being lumped in with those people because I am conservative. Seeing the looting and the fires perpetrated by people in Portland and elsewhere hold on a minute. Let me move my cursor so I can read the rest of it. She says hold on a minute, goes unpunished is also disturbing. I'm glad the people who choose to invade the Capitol in such a violent way are being brought to justice. I just have a dream for justice for all, regardless of race, creed, or color. How do we make this happen? That is the question. You're right, Joel. That is the question. Because, something that we've talked about on this show is, and something I've had conversations with people privately, is this country wasn't built for equality. It wasn't created for equality of all man. So how do you redo a foundational concept? I have no idea that it's possible to be done. I really don't. But we just keep doing it by one, prayer, two, know who you're voting for. Like, vote your faith, vote who you believe is going to be the best impartial person. And vote for the laws to change, to cause injustice to be justified. That's the only way we have it, That's how we fight. That word will never be the same for me ever again. Ever again. So in saying that, I want to talk about the freedom of speech because Trump used the word fight at the rally and it led to an actual fight. There is so much collaborated effort to silence him, but not only him, all that believe that the election was not legitimized. I have a problem with that. And this is, the problem is, one, you have all of the collaboration between social media, between Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, where else, Twitter, all Apple, Google, they're all at the same time, no more Trump. Email servers, he can't even email. Like, is that really an equal or proper or correct thing to do to anyone because they said something and someone else acted? Brandy, if you say, Melanie, you know what, we need to fight for, listen, I've had an altercation with people, all right? And I might say, hey, y'all, we need to fight against this. Now, if I tell 5 people around me, we need to fight against this person's, thing, if one of those people go and actually beat the person up for it, am I supposed to be canceled? Am I supposed to be wiped off the face of the earth? Nobody can hear me, see me, touch me, anything ever again because I said something and someone else took and ran with it. But that's what they did to not only the president, but to people who just believed that there was injustice. What do you say about that, Brandy? Do you think that collaborated effort is
So
equally justified?
they canceled his accounts just for those two statements.
Yes.
See, I have a problem with that, because you might as well have to let him keep it now. I mean, he only got literally 2 more weeks to be the president, and then he's going to be still talking junk somewhere else as now the former president. But to me, it was still a slap in the face, because the things that were directly hurtful, grab a woman by the crotch, all of
Did,
these very hurtful, harmful statements that were direct hit target. You take the one that's fluffy and kind of could mean this, it's all a wash to me. To me, it's a spectacle. It was a power card that they pulled.
yes.
Facebook went first, or Twitter went first, and then Facebook went, "Ooh, we can get some people on our team. We're gonna pull that Pinterest." Why does Pinterest need to be on the bandwagon of
I haven't heard about Pinterest.
Pinterest? Really?
Come
They
on,
shut
Pinterest.
all of social media, all of them. And so again, to me, it's seeing. I told somebody this earlier. I have an older sister. I have a younger brother. So older sister, me, then my brother. I saw my mom be super harsh to my sister. By the time she got to me, she was getting softer. And by the time my brother came along, it was just like he could do whatever he wanted to do with no consequences. And I was like, dang, like, are you still the same parent? And so, she said, by the time your brother came along, I was just tired of raising kids. I feel like that's where we are. They're tired of trying to raise Trump, tell him what to do, how to do it, what to say and what not to say. And they pulled a power card and said, you know what? We're going to take what we deem to be your voice, but he still can press the button that ends the whole world. Like, there's a button up there somewhere that can end the whole world. Nobody ever told you about that?
Well, yeah, no, but I'm saying it doesn't make sense. It has no equality.
Right. He still has the power. So taking away his ability to type on a computer and say stuff on a social media network still doesn't take away his power.
But do you know about this? Because, well, okay, I'm going to get this to a minute. But here's the thing. Not only did they take away Trump's power, but do you know that, where's the number? Where's the number? Hold on a minute. Wait, hold on a minute. I should have the number right here, but I don't. Where's the number? Here it is. Okay. So I want to make sure I have the right number. If anyone, now, not, if anyone did not agree, or anyone who objects to the certifying of Joe Biden as president. Okay. So that's a large number of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Billions of people. But if you objected, now I don't understand that. They didn't protest, they objected. There's a legal right for our congressmen, our Senate to stand up and say, I object to the certification of a president, any president. That is part of the process that they can object, right? But do you know what happened to 147 Republican lawmakers? Let me show you. If you were found to object to certifying Joe Biden as president, which was 147, all of your funding was stopped.
Oh, wow.
No more campaign funds, no more funding to your causes, to your livelihood, to your position that you were voted in. Marriott International, Morgan Stanley, Dow, Blue Cross Shield Association stopped all of it. Not only did they stop it, but also the the ability to swipe your card to get funding, they stopped processing payments to anybody who objected to Joe Biden as being certified. Now, I will say this about JP Morgan, Citibank, Microsoft, and Facebook. They stopped all funding to both sides, Democrat and Republican, until further notice. So there are some companies that are saying, hey, we're just not even going to play this game. We're not funding anybody anymore. But how do you, Randy, how does one president say one word, fight, let's go to the Capitol, let's fight for our country, which we have been saying in America? Listen, I'm ex-military. We took an oath to fight for our country.
Right.
But now they're using that for political gain to silence not only Trump, but all who disagree with the Democratic Party. How is that America?
It's not.
See, I know people like, and I will say like you, can be very happy about Trump being silenced. But when they cross the line to silence all who disagree
That's
with
a lot.
a party, that's overreach. And not just to silence them, but they took away all ability to fund. So if I voted any one of these 147 Republicans in to office to do my bidding for me as a citizen, guess what? They can't, because funding has stopped for them. So we have a Democratic president elect, Democratic House, Democratic Senate, and now Democrats are the only ones who can get funded. Tell me how this new presidency is going to work for the American people.
I hope that them storming the Capitol wasn't a prelude to what's going to happen after the inauguration. Because I feel like if people can go to that length, they'll go to other lengths. And it showed other people, hey, this is all that's going to happen. They're going to take us in. They're going to do a little questioning, and we're going to go home. I think one of the guys is that actually still in jail, upset that he can't eat organic food. Crazy. So, but you're talking about 4 or 5 people are in jail, and there were thousands of people that went through there. So what is our country going to look like? I think it's going to be chaotic. I think it's going to be a lot of disappointment, hurt, anger, and violence until somebody says, okay, what is it that y'all want us to change? And we're willing to listen, because what's happening is I think we're talking, nobody's listening. And so
I want to go back. I really want to stay on this, Brandy. You're trying to bring us to a conclusion. I'm not ready to conclude yet. Stop it, Brandy. So Jill says, Brandy, good point. No one says good point, Melanie. We have good points, Brandy. Good points, Bill. Everybody loves Bill and Brandy, but no one says anything positive about Melanie. I'll take the hit. Thank you, Jill, for liking Brandy's comments. We also have Jojo Jordan Ivesta, who says amen. I don't really know what he was saying, but I'm going to take that from me because it came up while I was talking. So thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. But on a serious note, Brandy, like people are saying this is good, but this is not good. Our freedom of speech, they use this to bring a loss of freedom of speech. And if we don't say anything, if we just take the hit and rejoice about, well, because it's Trump. Yeah, but it's not just Trump. You want to know why? Because also this, and I want to stay on this. Stay with me, Brandy. I'll let you close the show up today, but you guys stay with me, Brandy. It's not just Trump. Okay, have you heard of the Parler site?
Yes, I have heard about it.
Okay, so Parler, I was not on it. I was invited to get on Parler, but I did not get on Parler. Probably just because of lack of time. I probably would have got on Parler. But Parler had 40,000 downloads. 40,000 downloads as of last month. It was the second most downloaded free app in Google and Apple. Now, does that not show that people wanted this platform? That the American people wanted this platform? Does it also not show that they wanted freedom to speak about what they were concerned with.
I believe so. And back up to what what reason did Parler have to ban Amazon?
No, Amazon banned Parler.
So why did they ban Parler?
So they're all saying because Parler was used by conservatives who followed Trump, that Parler was used or could be used to incite the violence.
Gotcha. So that was their way of
shutting down conservatism
and shutting down the conservatives.
Okay, I'm conservative. I don't make a qualm about that. I'm a very conservative person. I'm like Bill. I don't follow Republican or Democrat. I take everybody at their own word, what they stand for, and so forth. And I try my best as a human, of course, I'm fallible, to line it up with the Word of God. Okay, you and I are on both sides, different sides of this, but we still both line it up with the Word of God as we understand it. So there's no contention between us. But you're telling me, now let me ask you this, Facebook, communist China has used Facebook. They didn't get booted out. They didn't close Facebook down. So because Parler has conservative Christians who didn't agree with the electoral process and who Trump tweeted to or spoke to or whatever, they are now gone, silenced, gone. Not only that, it had 6 million users, 6 million users. So they robbed the freedom of speech for 6 million, according to Parler's numbers. 6 million Americans with a swipe, with a collaborated effort. You're not going to tell me that. I'm going to get to why I think it happened in a minute, but you're not going to tell me that the Senate, the Congress, and all of these big tech companies, all of these banking systems, all of them just independently decided to shut down Republicans. And they did it in a fail swoop. They did it so quickly. How and why would they do that? And nobody cares to say anything. Oh, Jill Buckland, love you. She said, "No, you got your kudos in private, so your rewards in heaven." All right, I'll take it, Jill. My rewards in heaven. Praise God for that. Forgive me for being prideful for the moment. I humbly accept that it was a pride moment. Sorry, Jill. Thank you for bringing it to my light. I appreciate that. Let me get that off. I can't even get it off. It's stuck on there forever. But listen. What was I saying?
Well, I got a question.
Go ahead.
So is freedom of speech freedom of consequence?
No, but shouldn't the consequence be equal across the board of a company? Shouldn't the consequence be equal to the offense? If you let communist China go on a platform, but you can't let conservatives who say the election was rigged go on a platform, something's wrong with that.
I agree. But I think our country has never been equal for what you say. It shouldn't have crime fit shouldn't time fit the crime, but they've never been that way. It's always been extreme. Like every circumstance has to be so extreme. They could have just done nothing. I mean, they didn't have to take away
out in 10 days.
Yeah. Right. That was my thing. It was like, oh, you want to say something now? 10 days from now, he's going to be gone. Why does this even matter right now?
Well, they're going to impeach him after he's gone. They're going to wait to impeach until the 19th.
Really?
Yeah, because it will hinder the process of transition. And listen, if I believe that you're so awful of a president that you need to be stopped, that I do an impeachment, I want you out quickly, not when it's convenient for me. See, this isn't about state of emergency. You can't tell me they believe that this is about a state of emergency. Also, President Trump has come out and said that it's time for peace. It's time for everybody to go home and be calm and be peaceful and that he's willing now to have a peaceful transition for the president-elect to come into office. So he's come out and spoken against the violence. He's come out and spoken that he is not for what happened, that he is not for violence, that he's the one, you realize he's the one who initiated the National Guard. He's the one, not the mayor.
Yeah.
Who should have done it.
So they finally did show up just on that.
It was the president, from what I understand and reading in all the interviews, the president invoked that, not the mayor. So, you know, he's come out and said it's going to be a peaceful transition from here on out. His people are meeting with president-elect's people, and it's going forward in there. Does he still say there's a fight to happen? Yes. He still says we have a lot to do. And I believe he's going to do a lot on the outside of the president's office. But he's allowing to go forward. But here we have the Democrats. No. We're not only going to block Trump, we're going to block everybody who believes in Trump, everybody who speaks up for Trump. Like, why is that necessary? How is Democrats sitting by and saying, and Republicans, anybody sitting by and saying, yeah, this is the way we want our country to be run?
Right.
You know, I get it. It's like a bunch of I just had this picture come in my mind. A bunch of school kids that were being bullied by someone since September. Here it is, May. School ends in June. And they're like, hey, we can get him now because it's going to be the last week of school. So we can just, let's just all jump on him. And they're not thinking about, we can still get suspended next year. They're not thinking about, well, we can still have a mark on our record. All they're thinking about is that rage, and it's now or never, let's get them. And that's what I believe is happening, that the Democrats are not even thinking about consequences of the American people or companies or anything like that. They're just like, hey, we've been bullied by him for 4 years. It's now or never, let's get him.
Right. I agree. And it's,
but you know,
to me, huh?
Go ahead.
I agree. I think, and it's I feel like it's the calm before the storm. For some reason, I just feel like there's something happened because of all these strings being pulled from up under people. You're talking about 147 people, 147 families, 147 people that probably have connections to somebody else.
Yes.
I just feel like it's making it bigger for no reason.
And what about the states that are affected by the lack of funding? What about the states? Yeah. It's going to trickle down again to the American people. Because check this out. Here's some figures. Because if you think American people, if you're listening and you think, oh, American people are for this, Brandy, I know you're for what happened, but you're already not. I know you're not for this. Jill says, yes, they also want to make sure that he can never run again. That's why they're impeaching him after he gets out. That's right, Jill. They want to make sure he can never run again. However, I did read an article saying even if he's impeached for the second time, but you got to impeach a man for 2 times in a row, then that is something else. Okay. So, you know, but here it is. We're going to wrap up. Here is this. Facebook lost 34 billion in market shares. Twitter lost 5 billion. Apple and Amazon are also losing billions because people are not okay with this. They're leaving these sites. They're pulling their funds, just as all the people that we mentioned before can pull the funds from the Republicans. Guess what? People are pulling their funds from these companies, Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Amazon. And they need to be careful that this big blow up of I'm going to get the bully is going to have a lot of repercussion on the American people, period. I don't know if this is true. But here's a chat. We'll put it up there. From Hamza Mossad. I don't know if this is true, but it says Zoom has just been hacked. I don't know. So do your own research and find out if that's true. If you're using Zoom, you might want to figure out who hacked it. David William Buckland says, hit him harder. So he's like, okay, the bully's getting hit. Well, the bully's going to hit back even harder. we do not condone violence on this show. So we are not using hit them and fight and all that as literal terms. All right. We are not doing it little, but this is what I want to leave you. I know, Brandon, you have to go. So we gotta end the show. But here is why. We got this. It's section 230. Do you guys know what section 230 is?
No,
I want you to look it up. It's the Communications Decency Act of 1996. It was to protect people like Facebook, Twitter companies from pedophiles, from being sued because a pedophile got on there and did his thing. That's why that was enacted. President Trump wanted to change this section. He wanted it to be more easy, more. He wanted it to be more even. That if they went after one party, they had to go after every party. They had to really, police their sites. He wanted to make that changed. That's what he was proposing. It would have hurt President Trump because he's one of the main people who they're going to cite. But he's like, if you cite me, why aren't you citing everybody else? So he wanted to change it to where they weren't protected on social media apps by choosing who they're going to silence. He wanted them to say, listen, if we silence one, we silence all, pretty much. That's a wrap up. But do your homework. Check out section 230, because I think that has a big reason why they all got on the bandwagon to stop it, because things were about to change for these high-tech companies and for the government. And now it's not going to happen. At least it doesn't look like any of those changes are going to happen. We do have to go. Brandy has, she is so amazing. Everybody wants her on their show, and she has her own shows to do regarding her publishing company and her teaching of the publishing companies and writing. So I'm going to give her another shout out. You can talk to her or reach out to her. Here's her Facebook tag. She's amazing. We thank you, Brandy, for being on the show, and for everybody else that has come on. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Kay Lenyon, and let's see, Jojo, Jordan Ivester, who gave me an amen. I'm going to take it. Thank you guys for being on the show very much. Reach out to me. If you guys that participated in today's show, go to, I'm trying, Brandy, to be quiet. Go to Truth to Hear, and you can have a free merchandise for participating today sent to you. But please email me and tell me what you want: a hat, a tote bag, a cup, or a t-shirt. And so if you participated in today's show, please email me at info@truth2hear, and you will get your free merchandise. All right. Thank you so much for coming along. Thank you for listening and chatting. May God keep us in prayer for our community and our country. Thank you.
Bye.